Chapter 15 Promontorium Boreale. Tired, hungry, and damp, the gang reaches Europe's northernmost point shortly before noon. The storm's anger is now so savage, it looks more like nighttime outside than midday. Their little vehicles wobble under hurricane-force winds when they park in front of the North Cape Hall. The low, broad building looks quite out of place among the wind-swept Arctic hills. Stone and mortar make up the visitor center's front facade. Behind this there is a modern rotunda, topped with a large white sphere, which looks like the pom-pom on a giant winter cap. "Remember," says Kira, staring intensely out the rain-streaked windshield. "There will most likely be another immovable inside. Take whatever you need to protect yourself." Sophia gives her a half-hearted thumbs up. Now that they've arrived, she isn't so sure she wants to go through with the plan. But it's too late to back out, and she knows it. Once more she pats her hip. The pistol is right where it should be, secure and loaded. She prays she won't have to use it, but somehow it feels inevitable. Before long, she will have more blood on her hands. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. When they exit the safety and warmth of the car, Sophia's body heat is sucked away instantly. The waterproof windbreaker is no match for the icy downpour driven by the cyclone's winds. 7 people and 1 dog hurry from 2 cars. In front of the main entrance, they huddle together. Over the din of the storm, Ettore shouts, "The moment we step inside these doors, you must stay alert. Danger may come at any moment. Keep your ears and eyes open, and your guard up." Dario fingers the long knife strapped to his belt and responds, "No need to worry about me." He seems excited that he might get to use it. Looks of disgust cross the twins' faces, but they say nothing. Micah yanks hard on one of the doors, as though he might have to rip it off its hinges, but it opens easily. Everybody shuffles inside and into a low, narrow entryway. Beyond this, the North Cape Hall opens into a cavernous room with a lofty ceiling. Floor-to-ceiling windows on the building's north end reveal 100 yards of barren rock beyond. After this, a drop into the sea. Near the cliff's edge stands a monument of sorts. It is like a globe, or rather the skeleton of a globe, made of black steel bars and raised high on a pedestal. "We will begin our search indoors," says Ettore. "If we do not find the relic after a thorough search inside, we will turn our attention elsewhere. Perhaps this storm will die down by then." "So what? Divide and conquer?" Kyla asks. "What's the best way to do this? Obviously, if an immovable attacks, we want to be together. On the other hand, even a caved-in tunnel won't stop Lynn forever." Ettore glances aside at an empty souvenir shop. Wringing his hands together for warmth, he replies, "Both valid points. I think we should break into groups of 2. Then we have some advantage in numbers, while also tripling the amount of ground we cover. I will take Sophia. Bixby too, I suppose." "Kira and me can take Gabe with us," Kyla says. Micah glances at Dario and grumbles, "Guess that makes us a team." "Remember," says Ettore, "look for the Greek letters. They might be our only chance to find the hallowed vault. We will meet back here in 1 hour." The parties split. Sophia and Ettore make for the right side of the open room. She wishes she would have objected to the division of teams. If they're attacked, she and Ettore are the least capable of putting up a solid fight. Besides Gabriel, of course. Ettore must notice her reluctance, because he offers his reassurance, saying, "We will be fine. We have Bixby with us. He can smell trouble well before we would." Sophia remembers how useful Bixby was when the old man attacked her in Denver. The dog had been brave, sure, but completely ineffective. His presence now doesn't help her feel any better about the situation, but she keeps her mouth shut about it. Their search takes them away from the central room and down a flight of stairs. Now below ground, they wander by the glow of Ettere's flashlight through the visitor center's various museum exhibits. They eventually find themselves creeping downward through a sloped tunnel called the Cave of Lights. Whether the tunnel was carved by people or by nature, Sophia can't be certain. Its walls and ceilings are bare rock, and miniature exhibits on both sides of the tunnel depict the evolution of human life in Norway. An eerie stillness lingers within the dark corridor. The fury of the storm above them doesn't reach this far into the earth. Here, all is silent. Dead. Before long, they find an opening in the tunnel's right-hand wall. A placard informs them that they have come to St. John's Chapel. When they go inside, they discover a tiny alcove built for religious visitors to the North Cape. There isn't much to it. A dozen wooden chairs, 2 candle stands, and an altar, all overlooked by a miniature, spread-armed figure of Jesus Christ. Ettere scrutinizes the stone floor and walls for any sign of the hallowed vault's entrance. Sophia, meanwhile, approaches the altar. It is a beautiful piece, carved from a single block of solid wood. Narrow at its base, it wings upward and outward with gentle curves, like the bottom part of an egg that's been cut in half. Its flat, oval surface holds a used candle and an open Bible. Sophia lifts the book gently from the altar. She flips absent-mindedly through a few pages, admiring the Norwegian script with its strange letters and vowel markers. But it is the altar, not the book, which suddenly catches her eye. "Ettere," she cries, "look!" "What is it?" he replies. "Here, on the altar, where the Bible was," she says, tapping the wooden surface excitedly. "It looks like the letter E, like an Antikythera." Ettere peers down at Sophia's discovery. Her claim is true. There, burned into the flat surface, is an elongated character. But Ettere seems less thrilled by Sophia's breakthrough. She finds his grin rather condescending as he says, "It was a good thought, Sophia. Unfortunately, there is no letter E in the word Antikythera. Where we put an E, the Greeks used an eta, remember? And an eta appears more like a capital H. I'm sorry, but we will have to keep looking." Sophia feels stupid. If she would have taken half a second to remember what Ettere taught them on the boat, she wouldn't have made such an embarrassing mistake. "It must be a manufacturer's mark," Ettere continues in explanation. "A sort of signature." Sophia waves her hand dismissively. "No, I get it. Let's keep looking." Their search takes them back into the tunnel. For the next hour, she and Ettere scour every nook and cranny along the Cave of Lights, but they find nothing. No relic, no immovable, not a single clue. Defeated, Ettere decides it is time to turn back. As they make their way up the tunnel, Sophia's mind wanders to the dangers they face here. For all they know, an immovable still lurks in the shadows, waiting to pick them off one by one. Perhaps some of their friends have already been hurt, or worse. She wonders next about Lin Lai. Certainly the blocked tunnel has slowed down their unseen enemy, but she sailed all the way across the Atlantic for her treasure. She will undoubtedly figure out a way around one obstacle. How soon until she shows up at the North Cape? What will happen if she arrives while Ettere's crew is still here? Sophia glances up at the man walking beside her. As if struck by a bolt of the cyclone's lightning, she realizes there's an important part of Ettere's story she does not yet know. "What happened? With you and Lynn?" she asks. Her voice is heavy with hesitation. She knows the question is a very personal one. Ettere looks sideways at her, weighing the question and its answer carefully. Finally, he says, "We were in love once." "You were?" Sophia reacts, shocked to hear such words. "What happened?" "Lynn was the first person I met after the time slip," Ettere recounts. She was the daughter of a Chinese ambassador to Rome. That's where I found her, in Rome, confused and alone. We teamed up for a while. Together, we learned about the Antikythera device and dedicated ourselves to finding it and learning its secrets. Somewhere along the way, we fell in love. And then, somewhere else along the way, it became apparent that our goals were incompatible. What do you mean? Sophia asks. I wanted to use the device to return to my family, my work, to set time right again. A sudden weariness settles over Ettere's features. He looks like someone who has seen a lifetime of sadness and pain as he says, but she had dark purposes, evil plans. Love was my motivation. Power was hers. Power? How could someone get power from a time machine? Wonders Sophia. There are ways, Ettere answers cryptically. Terrible ways. But how? Asks the prying girl. Sophia, Ettere says with a wistful grin. I would not burden your innocent and beautiful mind with those answers. I would not do it, even if it meant all the relics were mine by the end of this sentence. Sophia frowns. Sometimes she forgets that, to the rest of the group, she is still nothing more than a little girl. And little girls can't possibly understand or handle the same things adults do. I flew a plane, she thinks, her irritation bubbling close to the surface. I was almost stabbed to death. But go ahead, pretend I'm some naive princess who isn't ready to know about the world. She stops herself and takes a calming breath. That old bitterness sneaks up on her so easily. She reminds herself that Ettere is simply trying to be kind, trying to protect her in the way that seems right to him. For that, at least, she cannot be angry. Drawing deep from the wells of her compassion, she says, I'm sorry you had to go through that. It must have hurt to watch someone you loved turn into that kind of person. And even then, it must have hurt to leave her. More than I ever thought possible, Ettere whispers with choked words. But now you have lots of people to love, she reminds him, and lots of people who love you. Thank you for saying that, Sophia, Ettere replies as they come to the Cave of Light's exit. Sometimes it is easy for me to forget such a simple joy. They walk the rest of the way in silence until they have returned to the spacious central room. The other groups are already waiting there. Everyone looks defeated. I take it you found as much as we did, says Ettere. Nothing, Micah confirms. Even if we did, we wouldn't know, because we got no idea what we're looking for. If only we could have got to that map room before Lynn. But without the book, we're like pigs trying to find acorns in a snowstorm. What now, Ettere? Kyla asks. She's a kind human being, but Sophia senses a mutinous tone even in the kickboxer's voice. The Italian says nothing. Turning from the group, he meanders to the north-facing wall of windows. There he stares out at the bare rock, the torrential rain, and the cliffside globe monument beyond the glass. We are all tired and disappointed, the Italian finally says. But do not let that discourage you. We have made more progress than you might realize. And what good has it been? Dario hisses angrily through his teeth. We didn't find the book, we don't have the relic, and before long Lynn and her people will show up. What then, Ettore? I hope to be long gone by then, he replies. There is more edge in his tone than usual. But it is growing dark, and we need to sleep. The weather, I hope, will be calmer tomorrow. Then we can widen our search to include the outbuildings, as well as the cliff sides and various points of interest. Nobody seems pleased with the plan, but they're too tired to argue. Murmuring their grumbles, they set up camp in the souvenir shop. From here they can keep an eye on the entrance. And with only one way in or out of the shop, no one will be able to sneak up behind them. They share a meager meal of dried fruits and nuts, plus some fish jerky Kira discovered in the shop. After eating, Micah leaves to keep watch at the front door, and the rest fall asleep one by one. Except for Sophia. Long after the snores and rhythmic breathing of the others have filled the room, she lies awake. Listening to the wind howl outside, she is thankful for the shelter. But it isn't the storm keeping her awake. It's the Greek letters of that word, Antikythera, which she can't stop thinking about. 10 letters, but 11 relics. How can each hallowed vault be marked by a letter if there aren't enough? Would whoever created them have simply left one blank? None of it makes sense. Perhaps it means the information in Ettere's books is just plain wrong. Or maybe it was written to send any relic seekers on a false trail, a wild goose chase. Or maybe, she realizes, they played an entirely different trick. Sophia's eyelids pop open with the sudden revelation. At least, she hopes it's a revelation. In Greek, the th sound in the word Antikythera is made up of a single letter, theta. She pictures, floating in the darkness above her, the number 0 with a horizontal line slashed through the middle. Next, she visualizes chopping it in half from top to bottom. What's left? A long, rounded letter E, just like the one on the altar.